Thank you, Yannick, for that nice introduction, and welcome everyone. So for the ones who know the Miromico speeches, usually they are quite technical, but today we want to try a little different format. We want to be looking at how can we scale. So now we have the technology, but how can we move beyond these pilots? We are in 2024, and according to the forecast, we should be having a few billion devices connected all around the globe by today. But where are these devices? I believe that everyone in here, you are all IoT ecosystem participants. You are contributing to the IoT system by today. So I believe we all together, we already have all the tools, all the bits and pieces that we would need in order to have a large-scale IoT initiative. And yet, sorry, but why do so many projects get stuck in the pilot phase? How many IoT initiatives have you been seeing scaling from maybe a few hundreds or thousands of devices to tens, thousands, hundreds, thousands, or millions of devices? Why these projects get stuck in the pilot? In order to demonstrate this, I would like to show you the typical pilot that we see happening a lot in the industry. Usually it starts by defining a use case, a space where we want to add smartness. For example, like as you can see here, a smart warehouse. I believe all of you have already identified like dozens of opportunities how we can make this warehouse more efficient, how we can add intelligence. And when we want to start installing, usually we are quite enthusiastic. So while I'm busy here presenting this presentation to you, in the background, probably my team has already purchased a starter kit and installed it within my warehouse. So when I'm coming back to Switzerland, I expect that my POC is already up and running and wonderful. I have a blast of success. So now in my most pilot project, instead of starting to scale, what I have done, so maybe I installed a few first environmental sensors, which I believe is maybe not the most complex use case. So usually what we will do here is we want to grasp the whole potential. So we will start to generate kind of a playground. We will install more and more different sensors, maybe from different vendors. We will play around with different wireless technology. And then what happens next? The problem is probably we already invested some time and we have already generated a quite complex system. And while we were quite busy trying to prove the concepts and the idea, we actually missed the point of that we need to prove the value, the business case, not necessarily the concepts. And I'm not going to be talking too much about the right-hand side of this slide because I've seen in industry most IoT initiatives, they know exactly about their strength, their opportunities, but when a pilot is started, usually we do the weakness analysis just for a pilot. So a pilot is structured like a pilot, but the way we need to move is to structure a pilot like a mini deployment that is structured exactly the same way that we already would be rolling out a large-scale deployment. Because if we don't, after the pilot, we realize our costs are exploding, our CapEx is exploding, our OpEx is exploding, and in the end, we have to fear the business case is not going to work because there will be no return of investment. And excuse me for that really university or high school looking slide. You don't have to read it. My point here is in order to generate some return of investments, we do need to keep the total cost of ownership under control. And that's not just the total cost of ownership of one device, but of every device, and also, of course, of the whole part of the ecosystem, of every bit and piece we are putting out in this project. And the total cost of ownership is basically nothing but the CapEx, which is all the cost that recurs only one, and then the operational costs, which we are usually most afraid about because it will be recurring. And for those who already have started some IoT projects, maybe some successful IoT project, we know neither the CapEx nor the OpEx can be set to zero. So the absolute key is to be able to balance the CapEx and the OpEx, and in most cases, that depends on having the awareness, making informed decisions about, will I make something myself or will I buy it? I would like to walk you through a quick example of how a pilot could be structured in a little bit different way that makes it much easier in the end to possibly scale. Because if the pilot is structured properly, then it will be much, much easier to move towards a large-scale deployment. And we will start here with the things, because obviously Internet of Things ain't no fun without the things. And also because we, as Miromico, we are a technology provider, a hardware manufacturer, so that's what we are doing best. And as you can already see on this slide right here, there is a huge number of complex points coming to building hardware. I like to do a little bit of IoT myth busting. A lot of people think IoT hardware is as easy, taking an Arduino board, hooking together with an ESP32, wonderful, everything is working. So why does my pilot fail? And the point is, while such quick proof of concepts do have their point, they have nothing to find in a proper deployment. Because I will not be able to produce these simple devices in large quantities. There are so many points to it. Can I source my material? What about the installation, the mountability, the durability, and then, of course, also understanding the OpEx. So is my design proper? Did I do my power management properly? But don't be scared. The good news is a lot of people have already struggled, have already failed, and found ways to solve these issues for you. And saying here, buy from a certified manufacturer. What is a certification? And the joke here is there is no IoT global certification telling you there is a good, that is a good partner for me. So what you'll need to do is to build your own catalog of criteria in order to qualify. This is the right hardware partner I want to work with. And once you found a partner, that partner can actually start helping you picking the right technology. And here I'm also talking about scalability and interoperability. Now, we have built very complex systems for customers, custom systems for customers who really needed that customized solution. But trust me, in 99% of the cases, when we see custom solutions, it's because our customers were not aware of the existing standards and the benefits that these existing standards can bring to us. The problem is, if everyone builds something custom, we will never have the chance to build an interoperable system that can move seamlessly between different systems. And the last point that I would like to touch here is power management. Nowadays, everyone is talking about these evil batteries, and we are having the headaches. Well, we have all of these devices in the field now. What happens when we have to replace the batteries? So on one hand, of course, we want to build a power-efficient system, always. On the other hand, if we are in an industrial setting, we will never be able to rely on a single source of energy. We will need to build redundancy, for example, by the means of building self-sufficient systems. We can add energy harvesting. But is that the one solution that fits all? No, it's not. We need to consider also the difficulties that come with installing self-energy harvested systems. Let's say you have a solar-powered system. What if the solar panel is dirty, for example? And there, I would like to say it's also really important that the systems can provide some kind of self-maintenance, or at least send an alarm when they need maintenance, that we can act before our system is failing. And everything that applied for the hardware, now in a bigger picture, also need to be applied to the infrastructure. And usually a big decision that we need to take is, do we want to go for a private network, or do we want to go for a public network? And of course, both choices come with their cons and pros. For example, maybe in a public network, we will be afraid of the cost per device. That will maybe explode my OpEx, or about security. On the other hand, if I build my private network myself maybe, then I'll have a hard time managing, I might have limited coverage, and that might also end up in high OpEx. And then, of course, we like the public networks because it's quasi-zero CapEx and probably also predictable OpEx. Now, how, for example, can a public network or any network reduce the OpEx? It is by having the proper technologies, for example, choosing a technology that provides better coverage, because that means that that we will have less installation costs, we will need less base stations, and for you, maybe as a customer, that means in the end also lower OPEX, because they have a lower total cost of ownership. So here I'm just going to go into the example. Let's say we pick a public network, so we need to be aware what providers exist and what is the interoperability they will give to us. Can they be interoperable with other network providers, and are they interoperable with other technologies? Do they offer a seamless multi-technology approach? And of course, last but not least, we need to understand what kind of service agreements can they provide to us. Can they give us a guarantee of service, maybe a 99% agreement? And then when we move from the network to the back end, we again have to make sure that that's interoperable. So in some cases, we are lucky and the network provider already suggests us some backend that we want to use. In some cases, we will also have to decide if we want to make it or buy it. We have to decide if we want to do it on-premise or on the cloud. We have to see about data security. That's an emerging topic with the Cyber Resilience Act. And in the end, we also have to see how do we want to interface it to the front end. And then when we want to interface it to the front end, we do need to see what IoT platforms exist, what bits and pieces can we already put together, and how will I do my fleet management. And there you see, you already have quite a bit of complexity, and if we maybe did the wrong technology choice, the whole flow from moving from the things to the cloud or to my application will not work out. And if my application is not structured properly, or I did not think about deployment in the beginning, then even a beautiful dashboard will not help me, because I cannot have my customers deploy these devices. It's simply too tricky. So points to look out there: does that application provider, that solution provider, does he help me with ideas how to deploy? Does he give some zero-touch provisioning? Is it compatible with the hardware that I chose? So these are all really important factors that you should be looking out for when you want to be doing a large-scale deployment. And of course, these are only a few aspects that I could cover in this speech, but I would like to give you a take-home message. And the first one is kind of a wake-up call to the IoT ecosystem. Stop building pilots because you want to build them and you want to prove that you can build them. Start planning them as if you would be building already a large-scale deployment. The second take-home message is, we have heard that quite a few times, we cannot do it alone. We, Miromico, we have identified we're actually quite good at hardware, but we, as Miromico, will never alone build a successful IoT initiative. And the key there is to close the loop, to understand that in the beginning, not at the end, in the very beginning planning phase of our project, of our initiative, we need to choose the right partner. So that's not, here a partner, let's do something, here a partner, but we need to do that in the beginning. And with that being said, I would like to thank L'Oreal and of course IoT Sparks for giving us these opportunities to network today, to find the proper partners, and of course I would like to invite you to come to me and to exchange ideas, and let's see how we can scale IoT further together. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Awesome. That was good, yeah? Thank you very much, Liliane. Great speech.